Welcome to the last day of the Heritage Horizon Project Week, our event to showcase the projects which help advance the data space for cultural heritage. My name is Milena Popova, and I'm pleased to be your host and moderator for the day and to introduce you to a number of inspiring speakers and exciting projects. I really hope that we will enjoy a day full of learnings, inspiration, and fun. Sorry. Ah, excuse me. Before we move to the content of the day, let me introduce some of the housekeeping rules. This is an online event, so please you keep a program close by. It has all the information you need. Also, to maximize your participation online, check your username, use your first and last name, and maybe add your institution in the brackets if you prefer so. Please also mute your microphone when you're speaking and feel free to use your camera if you want to. If you need to leave for a second, please turn your camera off. We are really curious to hear about your experiences during the day. So therefore, we encourage you to share these insights, questions, stories, impressions on social media using our Heritage Horizon and Project Week hashtag. Sorry. For all our events, we encourage inclusive conversation and collaboration, and therefore we want to share with you our European Inclusive Engagement Guidelines. You will see that also in the chat. These are quite a long list of points, but here I want to highlight a few of them. First of all, listen and read with the same energy and focus that you want to be heard. Embrace a learning mindset and be aware of your own biases. Also respect all kinds of and all points of view. And if there is anything you want to flag to the Europeana staff, or if you have any questions, then don't hesitate to send a direct message to our colleagues in the chat. So what is this day about? The focus of the day will be on triple transformation. And after a short introduction of myself on the topic, we'll move to two thematic blocks. They are dedicated to two large data initiatives. One is the European Heritage Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage, and the second one is dedicated to tourism. The first block on the cloud will have two presentations on ECOS and Heritalize, and the second one will start with an intervention by DigiGrow, the tourism and textile unit, followed by a presentation of DeployTour. This is the project which deploys the data space for tourism. And we will finalize the day with a recap, summarizing what we have learned about the day, our main findings, and after you leave the Zoom link, you will find a survey, a short survey. It is really important for us to understand how we experience the day, and we'll be grateful if you can share these experiences and help us improve our events. So diving into the day topic. Today is, as I said, about triple transformation, and this is the second day of the project week. On Monday, we opened the topic, and you heard about one big initiative, the European Heritage Hub. Today, I'd like to start with a reminder of the main points from this day. So the data space for cultural heritage is one of the mature data spaces, thanks to the achievements of Europeana and the Europeana initiative. But we are not alone, and we exist in an ecosystem. And once this is the ecosystem of other data spaces, currently 14 data spaces in key sectors of the economy and also domain of public interest. As you can see, the data spaces on languages, financial, energy, tourism, and of course, cultural heritage. In our own sector, we are also part of the wider ecosystem, the digital cultural heritage ecosystem, with key initiatives such as the European Cloud for Cultural Heritage, European Heritage Hub, Time Machine, the 3D Competence Center, as well the community, culture and creativity of the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. And all these initiatives are here to facilitate and contribute to the Europe's triple transition with three main aspects: digital, green, and social. So this day, today, we'll focus on the synergies with other large data initiatives, namely the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage and the Data Space for Tourism. What we'll do is that we'll explore the synergies with regard to interoperability, data and technical interoperability, also data reuse and networks and communities. In particular, we will look how the data space and the respective data initiative can connect the infrastructures, how we can establish effective and seamless data flows between the two infrastructure and share high value data, how we can leverage the innovative technologies such as AI and XR and give access to various innovation environments, how we can create new data products and services and encourage reuse, and finally, how we can increase the engagement with various audiences, including new ones, as well communities. And all this so that we can really build up sustainable, value-driven, and thriving data ecosystem. And on this note, I'd like to move to our first speaker of the day, and this is Remy Petitcot, who is head of the research infrastructure at the Heritage Science Foundation in France. And Remy will tell us more about the ECHOS project. Remy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Milena, for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to present you ECHOS, which is a project leading this new initiative. You probably have heard of it, but you might have heard of it with different names. So we use here in the program Cultural Heritage Cloud, but it was also known, especially in official EU communication, as the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage, with this wonderful acronym, which I will not pronounce here. But so just so you know, the Cultural Heritage Cloud is the same as this CCCH. So our mission within ECHOS is to set up a shared platform designed to facilitate collaboration among heritage professionals and researchers. We include researchers within heritage professionals, but they have specific kinds of needs, providing them with access to data, scientific resources, training, and advanced digital tools tailored to fit their needs. So there is a huge user needs focus on whatever we want to implement. Sorry, so I'm trying to pass the slide. Let me try again with. Okay. So ECHOS is a project funded by the European Union under Horizon program and its Cluster 2. It is quite a large project covering 5 years, so 2024 to 2029, with many actors that I will introduce you to, 26 beneficiaries, 16 affiliated entities, 9 associated partners covering 16 countries within Europe, including the UK. It just started in June. So as I say, will last for 5 years. And this is an important information because IWC 2029 will be a very important date for the Cultural Heritage Cloud. It is composed of 4 main pillars, which I will develop, and something that was called crossing pillar, although it does not make sense in architecture, but this is more central support services to the project. So more precisely, within these 51 partners with different kinds of ways to commit to the project, we decided when creating the proposal to focus on umbrella organization, because we assume that through this organization, so including Europeana, we will be able to reach a very large part of the community through the different networks, and also to identify needs that individual partners, despite their involvement and collaboration, would not be able to identify. Not only needs, but also existing resources that we can integrate and build upon. So here you see this map. This is publicly available information, of course, on our website and also on Cordis, as you probably know. So these 15 umbrella organizations represent more than 1,000 organizations, so individual members or national nodes in case of research infrastructures, and they cover a variety of disciplines. So we have a cluster around language as social and cultural data, art, archaeology and museums, archives and libraries, monuments and sites, conservation, restoration, cultural management and media culture, digital cultural heritage, including digital-born assets, and also a focus on intangible heritage and other communities as well. So as you see, from cultural heritage, we are trying to cover the largest field as understanding as possible of cultural heritage, as long as there are professionals working on it or researchers. So ECOS is coordinated by CNRS, National Center for Scientific Research in France, with two co-leading institutions, so the Fondation des Sciences du Patrimoine, Heritage Science Foundation, which is my employer, and the National Research Council in Italy. And this network of umbrella organizations, as you might have seen on the map, is composed with Archives Portal Europe, Time Machine, which was also mentioned in Milena's craft, Crusoe. Crusoe is a network of universities in the Iberian Peninsula. LIBER, you probably know, Michael Cultural Association. EGI, EGI is is relating to the infrastructure side, so more on the computer science and really infrastructure side, not really on cultural heritage. NCAC, so which is a network on cultural management policy at the European level. Of course, Europeana and the Europeana Foundation and the Network Association on behalf of its whole community. And we also have IGO, such as ICOM or ICOMOS, and Research Infrastructure and NEMO as a network association. And we have research infrastructures active in the field of heritage science or cultural heritage research. Some people also use this terminology. So the ERIS, the European Research Infrastructure for Heritage Science, CLARI, you probably know on languages, Ariadne on archaeology, and DAIA on arts and humanities. And I'm also not forgetting the small, as you can see in the last line on the left, ECHO, which is for conservators, restorers at the European level. So as you see, we have a very large representation of different communities, but it does not cover every single type of work on cultural heritage, which we will try to do in our activities that I will introduce you to a bit later. But first, let me present you the 6 different strategic objectives of the project, which should align with the general objective, European objectives of the Cultural Heritage Cloud. So the first objective is very simple to understand, but not so simple to realize, of course, is to build an open source infrastructure that enables the creation of practical applications driven by cultural heritage communities' needs. Of course, cultural heritage communities is understood as largely as possible. It is not restricted to European or active communities active in Europe, but of course, being an EU project, we focus first on these communities here, but we are not against integrating more broadly, communities more broadly in a second stage of the cloud development. In a bit more conceptual approach, our objective is to move away from an object-focused approach to a holistic approach to digital transformation of both tangible and intangible assets. This means that our objective is really to gather all information available on an object in a different time, state, dimension around digital twins, which is different than other approach that we have developed in the past on one data set, on one object, without this interaction between information and knowledge that we want to implement here. And I'll come back to that later in the presentation. Our third objective is to bring together fragmenting communities within the cultural heritage sector into a new cohesive community. This fragmentation is due to many things, many historical reasons, but also political and all sorts of economic reasons, linguistics as well. The idea is not to make something unified, a very top-down approach, but is to enable through this new initiative discussions between parts of the community that are not discussing now or that have not been discussing at the moment. For example, there are parts of the community that don't interact so much with each other. Let's say some heritage scientists, for example, with intangible communities. This is a dialogue that we need to involve to increase. So this is really this idea to have this federating new communities around tools and digital commons. Our fourth strategic objective is to integrate results of past, current, and future cloud-related projects with data, services, digital processes, and applications in terms of apps as well. So services and tools. This is really driven by the observation that there are already quite a lot of very useful services and initiatives, whether at the international, European, national, sometimes even institutional level, and we do not aim to reinvent the wheel. This would be really counterproductive. So this is really the spirit of integration, and as much as possible build upon what already exists, which is also a sustainability strategy. So relating to sustainability, we want also to deliver a sustainable and inclusive legal entity that handles the development of the platform and maintenance of the cloud platform in the long run. So this should be done towards the end of the project, so 2028, 2029. But we don't want all this work, initiatives, and development to end after ECHOS stops, which is the same challenge for all research infrastructures, really. So we are working on that. At the moment, of course, this is the beginning of the project. I don't have any solution to give you. We are considering many options, and we will have to see with stakeholders, including governments and existing initiatives, what is the most relevant. And the final objective, which is a sort of meta objective, really, what we want to do with this cloud is really to create new knowledge. This is the main goal. So this new knowledge will be created by innovation and collaborative co-creation around digital commons. So everyone, by bringing a piece of knowledge into the cloud, and the interconnection we can make between these pieces of knowledge will be greater than the sums. You know, this is like the collective good. So it will not be an addition of data and knowledge, it will be greater than this just the sum of what people bring. At least that's what we want to do around digital commerce. So I presented objectives here. I present perspectives. So what we would like we to have in the longer run. Our perspective is that we avoid duplication or at least poor use of existing resources. So we want to combine existing resources as much as possible to valorize resources. And if we identify a gap, something that doesn't exist or it's not sufficient, we can create some more tools and resources. What we want to do, our project will be done through tools and expertise as well. So tools without the context and expertise will not really produce any meaningful impact. And this expertise, we find it within communities. So this is the core also of what we do, is engaging with all sorts of cultural heritage communities, or actually any actor involved in cultural heritage. For example, an IT developer that works on software related to cultural heritage, we consider them as part of the heritage community. What we want to do, and also based on the observation of the work of our members, is to prevent the loss of data, tools, and knowledge, which we know, to be honest, is at the moment very important. When someone typically, for example, a physicist retires, working on cultural heritage, we might keep the data, but will not keep the knowledge on how to exploit it. In many cases, we actually don't even keep the data. And this is not only for one part of the field, but we know that there is a lot of loss of data, tools, and knowledge happening right now. So we want to prevent that. We also want, as I said, to generate new knowledge based on that. And there is also a political, at least strategic interest from the European Union and its members, and also the UK, which is quite strongly involved in the initiative, is to strengthen the European research area and more generally the EU's leadership in cultural heritage research. So here I talked a lot about the cloud, and I want to introduce you a little bit to the ecosystem. I know that you are, many of you are already quite familiar with it, but still here is our attempt with representing and also a bit aligns with what Milena showed in her introduction. This ecosystem, we see three main initiatives or areas. Of course, so starting, this is not modest, but starting from the cloud on the top in the blue round, which provides heritage digital twin, this digital continuum, and an ecosystem around these digital twins. Also interacts with research infrastructures and everyone that produces data. So we focus on excellence both in education and cultural heritage and in science. We have also the data space, which is kindly hosting us today and organizing this project week through Europeana, which here is part of the digital single market, has excellence in data and cultural heritage as well, and provides a strategy, a long-term strategy for data, and also aggregates all sorts of data here. We have 55 million data for 40 plus aggregator. I'm not sure in the long run which will be the figure, but this is already quite significant. It does not engage, at least not primarily, in science or research. And then we have In yellow, the European Open Science Cloud, which will be also a very important player in what we want to achieve in this ecosystem. And here it provides generic tools and services for research, innovation, and education, a strategy for research data, and a single entry point. And it has been launched actually quite recently, the EOSC EU node for research data and all sort of support to open science. So the EOSC here is providing excellence in science and data, but has no, at the moment, has no activity at all in cultural heritage. And they are actually willing to help us improve as a community, cultural heritage community, in open science practices. So I mentioned quite a lot, this digital commons, and as you can remember, digital commons was a concept that was binding all the three different initiatives at the center. We understand commons, the term commons, as commons in economy, in economics. So here, ECHO is trying to create this digital continuum, which is based on a socio-technical ecosystem. So it includes people, it includes expertise, not only tools and data, that will enable users to interact with digital twins to generate new knowledge. Digital twins are quite an important concept for us in our project. And they are this representation of all data and knowledge, comprehensive representation about a cultural heritage asset, whether it is a monument or any kind of asset, really can be intangible as well, across space and time. So this interaction within digital twin, building digital twin, will generate new knowledge. This digital environment will facilitate the creation of this new generation of objects, digital twins, which are semantically rich. So we don't produce them randomly. They follow a process and comparable process and produced collectively. So this requires, of course, data literacy and also a will to engage in opening data. So in a way, we want to impulse to create this impulsion to create a different, even approach to cultural heritage, at least for professionals, feeding into these digital twins as much as possible for the benefit of the whole community, and which also will be useful for practical applications. For example, knowing about the past restorations of an object or any event will be very useful for many professionals. More precisely than here, we can discuss it in a short Q&A session after my presentation. Here an attempt, and also this is a personal attempt, to make this potential topics for discussion with the data space. Of course, I'm not an expert in the data space. I'm not involved yet in any activity. But the way I understand it is that the data space is an entry point for access to specific kinds of cultural heritage data, a very large amount, which can be used and reused by large audiences. So any audiences, but including educators, creatives, and citizens. But it does not provide access to all types of research data used in cultural heritage research. For example, mostly data coming from instrumentation or scientific instrumentation or climatic data, or other kind of data that can be very relevant to our field. And it has this very important strengths, which is its connection to other thematic data spaces, and then can also host data that's relevant for what we want to do, especially the one on tourism, but also climate and all the other ones. While the Cultural Heritage Cloud wants to provide access to these digital commons that focuses and integrates on services tools in a comprehensive research environment. So typically, what we see, the Cultural Heritage Cloud can retrieve open data, but typically users can come from with their own data, use the services that we provide to create these digital twins within the commons. So they can come in with their own data or reuse data from other sources, and hopefully in our vision, including from the data space for cultural heritage. The cloud also will rely probably more heavily than the data space on EOSC and other specialized research infrastructures such as ERIS, Clarin, and DARIA. And our end goal is a bit different because we want to create here digital twins. They are less focused probably on some audiences of the cultural of the data space that are not primarily working on cultural heritage as professional. So here the link clearly is interoperability, which will enable any kind of dialogue really. That's really necessary, but also because we are working, sharing objectives and sharing a community, we need to work together on capacity building, because the success of the data space and the cloud will really depend on its use. And its use is only possible if the community understands what we want to do and understands some of the concept. So capacity building is key, and we will need to do it together in order to maximize its efficiency. And of course, knowledge creation, which will be maximized if we manage to have a good collaboration. So coming back a little bit on how ECOS is organized, we have these 4 pillars which include work packages. Don't worry, I will not go through the whole list of work packages because it's quite long, because it's a large project. But we have 4 main pillars, so 4 main thematic groups. The community pillar, which is led by FSP, my institution that aims at building and organizing the cloud community by leveraging various sectors of cultural heritage and provide essential training to facilitate adoption and use of the cloud. So this part, last part of the sentence, is led by Europeana, and it includes participation of a lot of professional organizations and IGO active in the project, but also external to the project as much as possible. Then we have the knowledge pillar, which is responsible for creating the cloud infrastructure and setting up the cultural heritage knowledge base. So really, it provides a conceptual model to the cloud. The innovation pillar, which develops user-friendly vertical applications, so tools and services, and assesses the whole ecosystem, including data quality, which is a very important topic for us. And with the data set we might have, at least within the cloud, data quality is not understood the same by everyone. If you ask a curator and a chemist or an astrologist, they will understand data quality very, very differently. So this is a huge challenge of creating this common language that we need to face, and probably we need to face it together with the data space as well. And we have a sustainability pillar, which deals with legal stuff, including creating the legal entity, and also the business plan, which should include also economic and social and environmental sustainability. This is something we want to do as well, and in every choice we make, have this parameters in mind as well. And then we have this weirdly named transversal pillar, which actually provides data, project management, communication, and all sorts of activities that really enables the project to run, because without it, it will not be possible. So a way to engage, for you to engage with us and with the cloud in general, will be through participating in the ECHOS consultation. The ECHOS consultation is trying to, sorry, I'll try and go back. Provide information first on datasets, tools, and workflows that can be integrating into the cloud. So this aspect is led by Daria. Information as well on communities, and then digital needs, so which I am taking charge of, and training needs and resources, which is led by Europeana. So we are doing this exercise together in order not to multiply the number of questionnaires you will need to fill in. But really, we need this snapshot of the whole ecosystem, really, what people have, what people need, what people don't know they need also. This is also an important question. Through this consultation that will last, that will start actually end of December, early next year, and last for the whole year 2025. So this consultation actually is already being prepared, and we try to gather as much existing surveys and results as possible from different projects and all sorts of works. We are currently in an advanced phase of designing and testing the questionnaire, which will be the quantitative part of the survey, which we should launch in December. Next year, and actually starting in December, so next year and in December, we'll organize workshops, interviews, and focus groups, and we really hope that you and the whole community will engage and help us identify precisely what communities we are underserved. I'm not sure we have communities that are already overserved, maybe, but I doubt it. And exactly how we can help you in your professional or research objectives. And then we'll have exploitation of the results, and we'll publish a mapping of the communities, all communities that are relevant to the cloud, and a strategy to better integrate them into the cloud that will cover the next years. And actually, Europeana in 2029 will publish an update on integrating other underserved communities, more marginalized communities, including contested heritage, etc. So we plan to update it, also early stage researchers, etc., in 2029. So these workshops are actually starting next week, next month, in a few weeks, in Brussels, and also online on the 12th and 13th of December, which you are more than invited to join either at GICERPA, which is the Royal Institute for Cultural Heritage. This is a great place next to the Commission in Parc du Cinquantenaire, or online. So the first event, the two events are half a day. And the first one, on 12th of December, will have the participation, pending confirmation, of two EU commissioners, one for research and the one for culture, and all sorts of high-level policy makers. So this is more on the policy side, governance side. And then on the 13th of December, we are hosting the first communities workshop, which we called Onboarding Communities into the Cultural Heritage Cloud. So if you are available, we will be more than happy to have you and also interact with you within this event. We also have another way to get involved, which will be to answer what we call cascading grants. Cascading grants are basically part of the money we receive from the European Commission. We are allowed to redistribute it for smaller projects with 3 different aims. The first one, and it's opening in February, so please keep in touch, will finance the integration of data into the cloud. And you can receive about 60,000 euro per project. This is only for one institution, not consortia. And the process for applying should be much, much simpler than for EU project or national, for that matter. The second call will be published in autumn next year, and relates will finance engagement and collaboration initiatives or conferences or other form of engagement. So 30K per project. And then the final one will be financing data and vertical application integration in 2 years with 60K. You have a more, how to say, a more labor-intensive way to be involved in the deployment of the cloud. And here it's not within ECOS. Because the cloud, and here is a slide actually I took from a speech from the European Commission representative, so the one in charge of this initiative at the DG RTD, which reminds a little bit the history of the cloud and why it is set up this way. So the cloud is based on concerns and wishes made by representatives of cultural heritage and research organizations through the European Parliament and national governments about the urgent need for new digital collaborative space adapted to specific needs of cultural heritage and researchers. It was then actually included in the current multi-annual financial framework, and also several member states express a wish to carry on within the European Council. So based on that political will, the deployment of the cloud was included in the cluster 2, for those of you who are familiar with Horizon Europe. And the cluster 2 is financing several projects, so ECOS being the leading one, and then several other projects that will develop some aspects of the cloud. This choice was made also based on expert reports that, if you are interested, I encourage you to read. That's available on the EU Commission website. And so if you want to get involved in a more substantive capacity, you can enter a series of Horizon Europe call topics, and one of which is active right now, but it's closing in January. But don't worry, because here we have a last phase where you can get involved. So the first phase in 2023, so finances ECOS and 3 other topics and 3 other projects. One is still open until late January. And hopefully many of you are already preparing proposals, and will finance the development of basic tools and functionalities for the cloud. And then we have a last wave. So probably we'll have about 7 or 8 projects in 2025 that will be financed to develop real-world uses for the platform. So pilot test and ways to improve and integrate existing resources. So next year. So this is the most substantive commitment you can get. And here is actually a little bit of teasing for the next speaker before we have this Q&A session. At the moment, so beyond ECOS, 3 projects were selected by the European Commission and its experts in 2023. So one is called Automata and is led by Gabriele Gattiglia from the University of Pisa, and is working on the use of AI augmenting robotics and sensors to create 3D models enriched with archaeometric data. And really their objective is to decrease the cost and increase time efficiency of digitization, focused on archaeology with application in other parts of cultural heritage. Then we have the textiles project, which here focuses on a different kind of heritage, which is textile, as you can guess from the title. And then, so it is coordinated by George Ioannikis in the Athena Research Center. And they want to employ key emerging technologies, so AI, 3D, digitization, Internet of Things, cloud edge computing, robotics, digital twins, so quite a heavy list, to capture and visualize visible and non-visible characteristics of textile and cultural heritage. And we'll have Heritalites, which we'll be presenting right after. So I will not expand of that and let Mikel Boras from IDP in Ingenieria and Arquitectura Iberia to present it so right after. So this is it for me, yes. So I will stop my presentation and I'm open for any questions that you may have in the next 10 minutes, if I'm correct.
Thanks very much, Remy, for this insightful presentation. You provided a very clear and detailed overview of the ECOS project and outlined very well the ways our audiences can connect to the cloud and also benefit from the project itself and the campaigns and the calls within this during the 5 years ECOS will run. So now I'd like to open indeed the floor to questions, maybe to, I think, well, we have a very nice comment from Jill Cousins that it's great to see how the work of Europeana over the last years is being adopted by the cloud in the wider context, and from the concept digital commons to digital twins. Jill looks forward to the cloud being able to take this further and to create with researchers more knowledgeable and more insights with European cultural heritage. Indeed, that's very nice to see. Picking up on this, because there is a clear and strong connection between the cloud and the data space for cultural heritage, particularly within the communities and capacity building. Would you like to elaborate a bit more on what we'll do in these areas?
Thank you, Jill, for the comment, and Milena for the question. So of course, this collaboration is still under discussion, but within at least our grant agreement. So this is the minimum level of collaboration, then we can have other. We plan to mutualize as much as possible capacity building. As I said, the success of our both initiatives really rely on people's ability to use them and also willingness to use them, but this also relates to capacity building. So within that context, we have a work package dedicating to capacity building of training, which is led by Europeana in collaboration with many actually actors, including Daria. And we are at the moment developing principles for capacity building and more or less a syllabus, or at least the kind of activities that we will implement. And in our ideas, these activities will be shared, and so training sessions or different resources, online resources, will be shared as much as possible by the two initiatives. So this is what we plan, at least for capacity building. In the general communities for package, which I'm leading, we also plan as much as possible to make use of existing conferences, existing forums, to engage with community and their needs, and to discuss also on what they already have, they want to keep, and what they want to improve, to identify a little bit through this discussion what belongs more, or what the data space could address better and what the cloud could address better. We also are working, but this is still quite a lot of work ongoing, but on interoperability. And here this discussion is much more technical, more complex. But we have this conversation within something that's called the ECOS Integration Task Force, where the data space is represented by Europeana, but also by other actors that are involved in both projects. It's something that I did not mention, but within ECOS, we have at least 5 or 6 beneficiaries that are involved in both initiatives. So they help us make that connection.
Yes, thanks very much. We all will be very busy in the next 5 years. Maybe I invite the audience for more questions.
If I may, I have a question. I'm involved in the project. First of all, thanks, Remy, for this indeed very clear presentation of this overview of the project. You've presented it in all its ambitious broadness and impressive objectives. At this stage of the project, what would you consider to be its biggest challenge?
So we have so many, it's actually difficult to choose what's the biggest one, but really for the long term, we'll find technical solutions to enable interoperability. I'm perfectly confident that we will, although it's not easy, but we have a lot of very competent people. So the challenge I'm most worried about is the adoption by communities of these services within their really daily practice or research. It's not because we have, and it also applies to the data space, because we have something that's robust and easy to use, that they will use it, because there is a cultural element to it. They need to accept and to fully embrace open science and open data. And this change of behavior has already started within parts of our community, not so much in others. So this will be probably the biggest challenge and will require the most attention and time and dedication.
Yeah, certainly a lot of challenges, but also a lot of ambitions. And on that point, I have a question. Currently, the cloud is about has European focus. So it's a European collaborative cloud for culture heritage. Is there any ambition to go beyond Europe, to go global at some point?
So here I can give you the answer of ECOS and also our interpretation of what the Commission is willing to do with the cloud and also member states. First, we need to focus on Europe to develop something robust. Once it's done, so hopefully in the next 4 years, we can start integrating with other international and regional initiatives. At the same time, we are already invited by quite a lot of international partners to exchange, and we tried within the mapping of communities and their needs to also take into account the needs of communities that are not working in Europe. But actually, I'm not worried about it, because at least from the experience of ERIS and the contact we've had in the past 6 months, their needs are not so different. I mean, some of them relate to access to infrastructure. This we cannot do anything about. But their conception needs are quite similar. So this is the answer, but really the collaboration would be more in the longer run. What I want to say is that Europe here, we of course it's primarily EU, but we want to integrate also non-EU members in the project as much as possible, and the UK government has expressed a very strong commitment to the initiative, and we also hope to embark other non-EU countries as much as possible.
Thanks very much for the answer, and it's very good to hear that we are going also to connect with other communities around the world. There is a question from the audience by Daniel Plettings. Great presentation. Can you please elaborate on the types of data that will stay in the cloud and data that goes into the data space? Can we say that the data space will contain data for the end users, while the cloud will contain the research data that is used in the creation of the end user data?
So this is a difficult question, of course, and we are still discussing actually these very topics between the two initiatives and also within the project. But maybe I can comment about this idea of having end data, so archiving. Archiving is not really our thing. Our project and the digital twin are dynamic processes that integrates data from the data space, from ARIS, from other sources. So the kind of data that will stay, so this will be my answer. They don't really stay. They are taken from other sources and exploited. We don't plan to provide archiving solutions. About the data that we feed into the cloud, this is a different question. Some of some data will be fed directly or through ARIS, also Daria, etc. Some of it will be fed by the data space, and some of it from different sources as well, directly from users, for example. So I cannot give you, data by data the overview, but we plan to rely as much as possible on what the data space can provide, but we know that the data space in its ambition will not include data that we consider highly important for our projects, for example, data from scientific instrumentation or climate observation or other type of sources. So this would be my answer. Hopefully, I will be able to give a more detailed answer, I or anyone from ECOS, in about a year and a half from now, when we will publish our integration roadmap. So this will be more clearly set out in the document.
Yes, thank you very much. We are now at the end of this session. I don't see any further questions. No, there is one from Marie-Veronique Leroy. So the research data would be expected to be on the data space as well, at least referenced there. So that's more the question. So is the expectation that the research data would be on the data space as well, not only on cloud?
I mean, I don't know for the data space, but I think here research data refer to a very, very large body, and I expect, yes, a lot of research data will be available within the data space, but from what I understood from different data spaces, some of the data we currently use, will not be able. For example, we have within our foundation a center which has a particle accelerator only dedicating to analysis of cultural heritage. They have very, very specific kind of needs and data, and they develop their own stuff, which is not really covered by the scope of the data space, if I understood correctly, and it's more covered by EOSC actually. But again, yes, a lot of especially art historical data will be available through the data space. We are aware of that, and we plan to integrate that.
Yeah, we'll build the connection between the two initiatives for sure. Okay, so we are closing the chat for now. Thanks again, Remy, for the presentation and for the detailed answer to all the questions of our audiences. And now we'd like to move to our next speaker. So this is one of the projects funded under the second strand of the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. And I'd like to invite Miquel Borràs, Innovation Manager at IDP Spain, which is the coordinator of the Heritalize project. Miquel, floor is yours.
Hello, thanks, Milena. Pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, always fine.
Yes, good. So I'll briefly introduce myself. Again, my name is Miquel Borràs. I work for IDP, which is an engineering services company based in Barcelona, Spain. And our focus or our expertise resides in the development and implementation of buildings, heritage buildings, digital twins, all of these based on heritage building information modeling software tools and models. Okay, with this approach, we aim at integrating all sorts of data, of models coming from objects, assets, etc., and integrating these data, all these parameters or parametric data, with tools that can make use of these data, such as kind of the analysis of the energy performance, the provision of these models to create interactive experiences, etc., etc. So with this, I will start the presentation of Heritalize project. Now I should be able to move around. Yeah. So Heritalize project is a Horizon project that's starting this January next year. It's composed of 17 partners coming from 7 countries, and it has an overall budget of 5 million euros. 4.2 of them coming from the EU and 0.8 coming from the UK funding body, as we have 3 partners coming from the UK. I just want to say that this project was in the reserve list, so that's why it's starting a bit later than the other cluster sister projects. But it's a good thing because I think that it starts, it falls just in between the ECCCH project, the ECOS project, so we will be able to at all time work in parallel with what is being done and discussed and decided in the ECOS project. In terms of what we aim to do, in a nutshell, is we will try to, or we will aim to transform cultural heritage documentation with advanced digitization and AI tools. So to digitize data, to create, to produce the data, to digitize the CH objects, and to process and manage that data based as much as possible on AI tools. So we have all these challenges and goals that you can see in the screen. Many things will be addressed in Heritalize project. It's a very, very complex one. We have our kind of internal goals of ingestion of data and paradata, digitization tools with this data. So we will be working on methodologies and standards and ontologies, etc. Then this will allow us to visualize this data in different ways. And one of the very important goals and challenges is this sharing and reuse of data together with obviously the ECCH cloud. Okay. One of the challenges of this project will be how to integrate with the ECCH, and also how to integrate not only data but also services and tools for the data visualization and so on. In terms of objectives, we have these 6 objectives with which later on will be broken down into specific technical objectives. But in terms of general objectives, we have these you can see on the screen. So review and protocols. We will have an in-depth review of the state of the art in terms of digitization methodologies, tools, standards, etc., etc. So the aim is to build upon and extend the current state of the art and not start rolling the wheel all over again. Then with this, we will have advanced data acquisition and AI-powered post-processing of these data. Okay, these general objectives could have gone together, but we decided to split them into 2, but they will work basically in parallel throughout the entire project. Now, with all these data, we also want to create tools based on already existing ones. So we have partners in the consortium that are experts with different hardware and software solutions to make use of these data. So we have, in a few words, we have 3D printing, we have VR, AR platform, and we have these also Geo H-beam modeling and platform or software as a service. Actually, we call it environment. These obviously aim at making use of this data and to enhance cluster heritage engagement on the stakeholders and visitors and etc., etc. Then again, and you can see that it's been stressed in bold, we have the interoperability and sharing. One of the critical aspects of this project, and I think that many, if not all, the ECCH related projects is the how we share and make the most use of such a big and vast amount of data we currently have and we will have in the near future. And so we will address this. This is led by the Open Geospatial Consortium, the OGC, and we will address these to develop open components for this seamless data integration across CH databases, but focusing obviously with the ECCH cloud. So we will be leveraging APIs, web APIs, REST APIs, and also semantic standards and metadata. Finally, we will have the impact and dissemination. We have 4 different demo sites and use cases addressing both tangible and intangible heritage, which in the end, ultimately, what we want to demonstrate is that we can address all sorts of heritage across Europe and then boost the engagement of cultural heritage owners and the sharing of data, etc., etc. In terms of impacts, I will go a bit quickly, a bit faster regarding the impacts because I think they are important. But of course, this is what we promised in the proposal, and we must start working very hard to commit and to fulfill these impacts. But we aim at 14% faster interventions, optimized maintenance and operation of cultural heritage assets, objects, and buildings, and precise detection of hidden issues, reducing risk of irreversible damage without dismantling objects. Also, we aim at supporting over 2,000 heritage professionals, benefiting more than 100 stakeholders and reaching 10 million users. Quite optimistic goals. We also aim at offering 70% greater access to fair-based ecosystem, data, etc., and delivering 50% cost saving in the operation and maintenance of heritage as a whole, the building and the objects, cultural heritage objects and assets within. Finally, obviously, we aim at supporting tourism, education, and European identity while promoting the social cohesion and safeguarding cultural assets within Europe, and enhancing access for museums, enabling diverse thematic exhibits that foster inclusion, unity, and EU values. And finally, we want to say that the Heritage Alliance project is aligned with the EU's Green Deal. Okay. Now, what I said before about the objectives then gives way to what we call in Heritage Alliance project the pillars of research and development. Okay, so I won't extend too much here because you've already heard about this, maybe in other words, but we have these 6 pillars. So first one is the digitization requirements and methodology definition. There will be an in-depth review of the state of the art and what is being done. This is going to be mainly led by the research entities in Heritage Alliance projects, namely Cyprus University of Technology, Heritage Malta, University of St. Andrews, and Politecnico di Torino. Then once this is analyzed throughout the first 12 months, I would say, we will start working somewhere in between with these digitalization tools development and testing at lab scale. So we have different tools such as photogrammetry, computer tomography scanning, multispectral imaging technology, reflectance transformation, etc. In parallel, we have pillar 3, that is all these data that will be produced, how we process it, and process it to create models, data models that can be used by tools that will be researched and developed later on. Just to finish pillar 3, we will be doing this supported by AI as much as possible. Again, we will have these different services or tools or solutions that will showcase how to make use of all these data we are producing. So we have these geolocated HBeam based digital twin environment, and together with these, or maybe embedded within, we will have these AR, VR visualization a module, this cultural heritage conservation and maintenance model, and CT scan based 3D printing. This 3D printing is led by Cyprus University of Technology. And finally, we have a top layer or top pillar, that's pillar number 5, that is the interoperable ICT architecture and this cultural heritage digital twin interoperability suite for the ECCCH cloud. So basically, we will have a lower level of services making use of this data and a top layer platform that aims to bridge between all these data and services and bridge all these with the ECCCH cloud, okay, and vice versa. So it's not mentioned in the grant agreement, but after some discussions with Heritage Alliance partners, I think it's very interesting to have a kind of an extra use case that kind of tries to make use of data available in the ECCCH cloud, and also probably trying to do the opposite too, so to populate the ECCH cloud with what we are doing. Finally, pillar 6 is basically the replication and scalability strategies based on Heritage Alliance demonstration validation. So once we go to the demo sites, digitize the heritage, the building, the objects, the assets, and put it all together, demonstrate that it's scalable to many more heritage sites, let's say, across Europe. Finally, this is a diagram that aims to show what we aim to do and what we aim to produce, research, produce, develop, and put together, okay? As you can see, I won't stop and read everything, but from this image, what you can get is that there are a lot of things. So the challenges are there. It will be a complex, a very complex project, very complicated in order to achieve putting everything together, integrating so many different data, metadata, data models together, how to prove that there are methodologies, standards, ontologies to make use of all these, and hopefully by the end of the project showcasing that there are services that allow to integrate a lot of these data. Okay, you can see here the different pillars or general objectives. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's these. All of these is one of the reasons we went for from the very beginning for a 4-year project and not a 3-year project. It was quite clear when we started drafting this that a 3-year project would be too short to achieve all of this, and I hope that within the 4-year time frame we can manage. So I'll just now move on to the different demonstration sites. As I said before, we have 2 in the UK, in Scotland, to be more precise. One is the West Highland Museum in Fort William, Scotland. Just for those of you who don't know the area but have watched the series Outlander, is in this region. So here we will aim at above all the digitization of the Jacobite and Carmichael collections on the building. So we aim to produce new digital exhibits for the museum website and app to showcase landscapes, buildings, artworks, and Gaelic cultural heritage. This one of the peculiarities here of this use case is that there's not only the building and the Jacobite and Carmichael collections, but it will address also the landscape. So it will aim to digitize cultural heritage, but at a very broad area within Scotland. The next UK demo site is this Timespan Museum in the Highlands. So here we have a VR room. So we aim at boosting Timespan new digital venue for hosting Revitalize Partner and just creating these VR and AR experiences with visitors. These and the previous one are small museums. So what I want to say with this is that we are not tackling huge museums and huge heritage sites we can think of. We are tackling like very, very small museums. So one of the objectives of Revitalize is showing similar small heritage sites and museums that digitizing their collections, digitizing their museums, etc., can be done, and ultimately can be done in a cost-effective way. Okay, as cheap as possible. So basically, bearing costs that they can take on without being a burden for their financial accounts. Second or third demo site is the Reggia di Venera Reale in Turin, Italy. These probably acts as the most common heritage site. This is a UNESCO site. It's a huge villa with surrounding gardens. So we will definitely have to properly analyze the scope of this demo site, because already in the proposal stage, we decided that digitizing the entire building, getting into a lot of detail, digitizing all the objects, all the cultural heritage objects of interest in this site was not impossible, but probably out of scope. So anyway, we will have to properly define the scope of this demo site, of this use case. But yeah, anyway, you can see here the different services or goals we intend to pursue in this demo site. And finally, we have the Villa Portelli in Calcara, Malta. Okay, this is a historic villa in Malta, receiving over 300,000 visitors per year. And we here also, just to mention, we aim at this intangible heritage that was mentioned in the topic. So we aim here precisely to record memories of former BP workers, especially around significant changes in the villa's landscape. Obviously, also going to the digitization of the building through heritage building information model and digital twin, etc., etc. And finally, I think I'm moving on to my final slides. I will just focus on one of the multimodal analysis tools and methods to use all the data created. I'm focusing on this one because this is our expertise, obviously. And also because the fact that the project hasn't started yet, and I still want to work with Heritalize project partners, to improve this presentation with their respective services. But for the time being, I will focus on this one. Here it's called a GeoHBeam digital twin. Now we usually rule out the word geo. We just call it HB based digital twin environment. But the aim here is to use the data available from the sites as much as it is available to create these HB models. So for the HB modeling, we usually require, if not already available, which in most cases it is not, so we basically require AutoCAD files or any computer-aided design files, PDF blueprints, etc., and produce these HB modeling. That data is shared to these IFC standard. Sometimes, given the complexity of the building and so on, we need to carry out point clouds through LiDAR technology, for example, just to help us model the building and so on. Now, all this process gives way to this result. You can see this is a web-based platform. You can see in further detail in the next slide. But here, let me just say that also, and I haven't mentioned before, we aim to integrate not only static data and parameters such as material parameters, material data, objects data, walls, beams, flooring, whatever, but not only static data, but also dynamic data coming from IoT and historical time series. So we put all this together, and the result is a web-based platform where we can check all sorts of information from the building and the objects and assets within. These objects and assets are obviously geolocated within the building, so that if it is quite a complex building or quite a complex heritage site, you can have structured all the data and the assets within and geolocated them instantly, facilitating, I would say, facilitating a lot the work of any facility or building manager, maintenance actor, whatever. So, for example, here you have a case, an example of what you see. This is the University of Bologna. So by default, you can see that we have different modules. We have the assets, we have the maintenance, and we have the builder. This is just to provide you of a glimpse of what we have. So in terms of assets, you have the structuring of all the data, and you can geolocate these assets in the building automatically. Here you can obviously see radiators, boilers, chillers, etc. This is because this is from another project, and it's focusing very much on energy efficiency aspects. But I say this because when we mention digital twins, data might be interesting for the visitors, for a kind of tourism perspective, but it could also, the digital twin of the building, of the heritage, can be used not only for tourism aspects, but also for energy efficiency aspects, or to analyze the costs of performing an improvement of the building, an expansion, whatever. So obviously here, what you can see here, it will be developed for what worries us in Heritalize project, which is all these, what I mentioned before, these cultural heritage objects, digitized models and data integration, and it's used for interactive engagement and like digital virtual exhibit development for tourism engagement overall. And I think that, yeah, this is my last slide, if not mistaken. This is a project, it's not heritage related, but you can see on the left-hand side all the different modules that we can provide for end users. So you can see monitoring, where real-time data and historical data is provided. You have safety, you have operations, we have energy, etc., etc. Here you just one last slide to showcase the visualization of real-time data. Now, if you clicked on one of these buttons, you could check historical data and also carry out analysis and comparing the impact of different solutions in comparison with what was happening before. And with this, I think I'm ending. This is just an overall picture of the consortium. Again, we are 17 partners. We have a Europeana, which I haven't mentioned, but obviously Europeana is very important because amongst other aspects, they provide the link with the ECCH. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. I will be more than happy to answer to any questions or any doubts. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mikkel. I mean, Heritalize is certainly a very complex project, and yeah, with very clear links to all three aspects of the triple transition, not only the digital, but also the green transformation. We saw the mentions of the energy optimization and all the others. Details around that. And also there was the social element around digital storytelling. I also like particularly the focus on small museums. I think this will be very important contribution to the cloud. Yeah, in your view, in which of these aspects, the digital, social, and the green transformation, in the context of the project, do you see the biggest challenges?
In terms of the energy transition, or?
Well, you have the three elements. I mean, there is obviously a lot to do with digital transformation, you know, AI and 3D printing, etc. All these elements. There is also links to social with digital storytelling, also to green. So, in which area do you foresee the biggest challenges in implementing the project?
I think that the biggest challenge will be in the huge amount of data we will have and the different formats, languages that data is shared with, and how to put together and integrate all this data into a unified and centralized environment, which this, from my point of view, will be this HBeam-based digital twin environment. So at some point, we might realize that maybe it's possible to integrate everything, but it makes no sense, or maybe by integrating everything, we end up with a solution that's too complex and probably too heavy. So one of the problems is that you integrate data and everything is good, but then working with such a complex and huge amount of data becomes really burdensome and slow, and maybe you need a supercomputer to manage that. And we don't expect anyone from the heritage sector to work with supercomputers and so on. We expect, and we should make these available for common, let's say, both common heritage owners, but also visitors and users and end users and stakeholders from the heritage sector. So it's important and crucial to make these as easy and fast and cost effective as possible. And there, I think there relies one of the challenges. So I'm sure we will be able to do what we want to do, but to do it so that it's useful and easy and fast to be done by cultural heritage owners and stakeholders, which I think that are not or will not be necessarily experts in certain software tools use, that is one of the biggest challenges, I think. And that's why we have these web-based platforms that we aim at allowing almost everyone to make easy use and visualization. So, I mean, I'm an expert in terms of HBeam, but I have no idea about what it takes to do photogrammetry, scanning, CT scanning, etc., and what it takes to showcase is show it, to visualize that data. So I expect a lot of people to be in a similar position as I am. Maybe they are experts in one field, but they have no idea about other fields, and it's complex. So making all these and putting all this together, but allowing end users to see this data, to check it in an easy way, that is a very heavy complex. Now, in terms of the Green Deal, I think that is not a challenge. I think there the challenge resides in knowing the requirements. So probably museums have requirements in terms of humidity, temperature that needs to be kept at certain levels. This is fine, this is okay, but maybe given the climate change is becoming a bit more complicated to meet those requirements, or we meet those requirements, but making quite an extensive use of energy. So maybe the challenge there resides to implement small changes to the building, maybe to the use of the energy, to lower that energy consumption and rely on renewable energy, etc., etc. I think that is a challenge, but not the biggest one, at least for Revitalize project and what worries us. I haven't mentioned, but IDP is partner of another heritage-related project, Horizon project, and it specifically focus on that part, on improving the energy efficiency and reducing energy consumption in heritage buildings.
Yeah, thanks very much for the comprehensive answer. We have one question from the audience on the topic of challenges related to data. Are there any guidelines for data granularity? Sharing this amount of data buildings can also create some risk in terms of security, vulnerabilities, etc.
So are we saying that in terms of kind of IP and like data security and so on, or is more related to kind of the heaviness or weight of data and the size of the files we're sharing? I mean, just to make sure, what are we talking about?
Maybe I'll invite Sebastian to clarify the background.
It's more about maybe oversharing information about your building. You know, where's the back door, and with the IoT integration, when is the least amount of people in the building? So just to make sure that also heritage is protected from ill.
Yeah. So, for example, our platform, one of the first exercises is to define the use cases, the stakeholders involved, and the roles. And when we talk about roles, we are addressing that. Okay, so obviously, if you are the facility manager or the cultural heritage manager, you are like a semi-god, and you should be able to check everything. And that's kind of the platform administrator role. Okay, so that role would be given to the cultural heritage manager and very little people. Okay, then you would have a visitor role that you obviously can access only a very specific amount of data and not sensitive data, not sensitive data, etc., etc. And then probably you have other roles that are more specific, and you, for example, I don't know, the maintenance manager, he or she will not be interested in knowing what's within the object, what materials are within the object. He or she won't be interested in anything related to tourism. He or she will only be interested in the assets they have, the assets that need to be maintained throughout time, the actions that are needed to carry out for those assets. So he or she will be able to log into the platform with a specific role and capable only of checking related data. So that's how we proceed, and we will have obviously the authentication protocols and access to the platform and so on. But so yeah, that's one of the many first things to define: the roles, the stakeholders, the accessibility permits, etc., etc.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah. Thank you, Miko, and to our audiences. On this note, I don't think there is also another question, and with this one, we really will close the session. How the project how will the project create connection with the work done by the aggregators under the framework of the Europeana initiative and or the data space? And who will be working on the related topic with Cultural Heritage Institution?
So just like a heads-on answer, I don't know, but because we need to start a project, I need to further understand what is being done in the ECCH and by Europeana and so on. But like I had like two ideas. So in terms of kind of connecting to this work done and so on, I guess that there will be a certain services, REST API or Web API services to exchange data and metadata. And maybe there's another way of integrating that, sharing actual models and data models. And also maybe, and I don't know, that these I need to discuss with the ECCH, but maybe there's also a possibility to integrate services like visualization services. So kind of there are different ways I see of different potential ways of integrating. One is obviously through the integration through Web API or REST API services. So you query specific data and you receive that data and metadata and whatever. The other one is actually uploading and downloading data models that are free of use or kind of they can be shared openly without any problems. So they are made public by the kind of heritage owner, and also uploading from our side. And the other one, and that last one, I have many doubts, but it's also a possibility, like kind of creating a marketplace for people or organizations willing to provide their services, either for the digitization of objects, for the processing of data, for the visualization of data, etc., etc. So these are how I envisage this. And as for who is working on related topics with CHI, I guess many of us, but in Heritalize project, just maybe it's not the answer you were looking for, but in Heritalize project, the OGC is leading this work of integrating with the ECCH, and I am obviously as coordinating doing the same. Okay, but who is working on related topics with CHIs? I think a lot of us, and I'm not sure I can share this information. I should check with everyone related.
Yeah, we can also follow up on this question after the event. Once again, thank you very much for your presentation and the answers to the audience questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure.
We are now moving to the second thematic block, which is dedicated to the Common European Data Space for Tourism. And without further ado, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Labaril, Policy Officer at the DG GROW in the Unit of Tourism at Textile.
Hi, how are you? I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure you can see me.
We can definitely hear you.
Strangely, I have put my video on,
yes.
and it's not working.
No, we can also see you.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope a bit of good news for you is I do not have any slides. I just want to introduce why we're discussing tourism and data sharing in tourism, just so that I can put it in context. There's going to be a speaker right after me giving you more details about what we do, but I would just really like for tourism to tie in with what's been discussed for the whole week and this morning, just because I know we all understand how tourism culture come together, but it's not often that we get to sit around the table and exchange views. So I'm very, very grateful for the invitation. And so basically, why did we decide to invite a service of the European Commission that works on tourism to discuss at a roundtable about everything that's cultural heritage and culture? Because many of the policy priorities that we have been following over the past 3 years remain as priority for the next 5 years, and they have to do, for the most part, with making sure that tourism becomes more sustainable and more inclusive and more innovative, obviously, and I suppose that applies to all sectors. But they also much have to do with making sure that information flows around the sector in a way that all of the smaller players can actually access it. So the point of our work for the past 2.5 years and over to the next 5 years, it's going to be giving access to information to very small players, big players, whoever needs that information for a number of reasons, which are defining a new tourism product, new tourism offer, policy priorities or evidence-based policy strategies that they may need. So it's about destinations and business equally. So it's about giving access to information. In order to do that, we need that information to flow. And we need it to flow across sectors. And this is the main message that I wanted to pass on why I think discussing what we do with data in tourism is important today with you. We want it to flow across sectors because everything makes tourism. And normally cultural heritage and everything that's cultural and educational is the first thing we think about when we think about tourism and its interactions, but that's not all there is. So to give you some concrete examples, when we ask our stakeholders which data they want, when we ask our sector which data they need, many ask us for opening times of museums or of churches, or even school calendars, or the calendars of exams in universities. All of that affects the tourism season. But at the same time, the price of petrol, energy costs, price of housing, all that is also tourism. And then, of course, the usual suspects like traveling, information, accommodation information, all that is tourism. Why am I saying all of this? Because we are trying to make sure that this kind of data, this information, is available to everyone who does tourism. And I think that also applies to, the operators in your sector, stakeholders in your sector, because I really do think we all, to some extent, do tourism. And so to go from the more general to the more specific, the idea of our work in DigiGrow for tourism, when it comes to digital, is to create a data space. And I did not want to open with that because I know they can be very obscure to just say data space. It's not very easily understood. But the idea behind it is pretty straightforward, which is we all need information and therefore we need to be able to access it. We need to be able to access it in a way that we know it's high quality and that we know that it can come from different sources. And we don't have to worry about the sources, but we can use it for what we need. That is data space, and that's what we're working on. I hope that is clear, because that is what I think we should all be having in the back of our minds when we establish ourselves as cultural operators or tourism operators. This is what the Commission can do to support. The first thing that we can do to support, as well as everything else, obviously, which has to do with funds and strategy. But I don't want to talk about any on that today. I really wanted to be here to discuss the data space. And so that's essentially my introduction to everything that's going to be discussed after me by Dolores, who's going to lead the concrete work of building this data space. So just to give you a state of play where we are, what we're doing. We worked on this for the past 3 years. We've done some prep work, and I'm sure the same has happened with Europeana, because it's the same idea, and we worked in parallel, and many other data spaces. And now it's the time for us to really build it. So we're going to have a project doing that for the next 3 years, meaning until the end of September 2027. And so that's why, if I can give you a bit of what we want, our policy priority European level, then maybe it'll be a bit easier to follow the speaker after me, Dolores, who actually does concretely that kind of deployment work. I hope that was clear. I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you very much for sharing the Commission perspectives on the data spaces, and particularly the one on tourism. I'm not sure whether there are questions in the audience right now. No. I think in this case, in the interest of time as well, we can move to the more practical aspects, how the data space of tourism will be implemented.
Yes.
Thanks once again, Mr. for this intervention.
Absolutely.
And now I would like to invite Dolores Ordonez, who is the Director of Any Solution, the coordinator of Deploy Tour.
Thank you so much, Milena, and also thank you so much, Misa, for the introduction. So, as mentioned, I'm going to speak about the deployment. So, Deploy Tour is the short name for the deployment of the EU tourism data space. I think I got the remote control. I have it? Yes. Okay, perfect. So, this is a project co-funded by the European Commission, and just to explain a little bit why this project also is important for us, because as Misa has mentioned, so tourism, it's already digital, and it's one of the most powerful industries worldwide. And the statistics shows that at the end of the day, Europe is one of the destinations that is going to be more visited also in the coming years, not only now. So UN Tourism is telling us that the growing numbers of tourists in the coming years will be around 3.3% steady growing. So, but the digitalization and the use of digital solutions, it's important not only for the tourists, but also for the destinations and for the whole tourism value chain. And when it started with the European data strategy, so we were thinking about February 2020. You remember this time we are in this period with COVID, in which everybody started to speak about this new concept of data spaces, and it was decided how we could create this common market in which data will flow from the different sectors. When the data strategy was drafted the first time, tourism was not there. So for us, it was something that it paid our attention. But then, thanks to the negotiation with the member states, tourism appeared there, and now it's in the priorities of the Commission for the coming years. Thanks to this change, there were previous projects. So we are in Deploy Tour. We are not departing from scratch. We have a previous project that it was called DATES, that it worked directly with another project that was called DSFT. And we worked together to lay the foundations, to set the basis of what is the European tourism data space, or how this European tourism data space should look like, how the actors should interact through a sound governance, which were the main technical requirements that should be followed, and also how could we include resilience sustainability as transversal pillars of any activity that is linked with tourism. Thanks to that, we produce a blueprint. This blueprint is still available in the website of DATES. And it's very interesting to set the foundations of the tourism data space, but also it mentions how important is transversality. So this is fundamental, because when we are discussing about tourism and we understand people going from one side to another, having their tourism experience, visiting the places, data is needed to be flowed in order to improve this tourism experience. This means that we are going to need data from other sectors. Of course, mobility sounds in the first place that is directly linked with tourism, but then there are other data spaces that are fundamental, and here we have also the data space of cultural heritage. That's why it's very important that all the data spaces are here working together, and I'm really grateful to Europeana for this invite, because we really need to start setting important links, synergies, and complementarities in order to ensure that data is going to flow from one data space to another. From this, from all this, in this program, the call was launched. It is within the Digital Europe programs. If you see the call, it's cloud, data, and AI. And this is important because at the end of the day, we are going also to deal with AI. It was submitted in January this year, so it just started on the 1st October. The funding rate is 50%, and we are around the 60 million euros and will be implemented for 3 years. Which are the objectives of this project? So first phase, we are going to deploy the technical infrastructure. So, but reusing other existing frameworks and tools, coordinating all the effort that has been done in previous initiatives, and we have to synchronize with the Simple initiative. Then it's very important, and we have a dedicated work package. So we are going to dedicate a lot of efforts, and indeed we have a high weight in our budget. It's for the governance framework. The governance framework is the one that is going to make the difference among the different data spaces, because we really want to engage all the different stakeholders. And in tourism, as you know, 90% of the business ecosystem is composed by SMEs. Then we are going to demonstrate how it works through the implementation of different pilots that are covering the different typologies of tourism, and it has a very well-balanced geographical coverage. But we have to ensure interoperability, transversality, complementarity with initiatives as Europeana is implementing, but also other data spaces and other initiatives. And then as a European project, we have to ensure the communication. The consortium is quite big. Europeana indeed is one of the 43 official partners, of the 39 official partners of the proposal. In total, we are 43 partners representing 30 countries, and we have also as official partners different ministries of tourism. So as, for example, Italy, Portugal, Austria, and also Greece. The project is going to be implemented and demonstrate how the data is going to flow through different pilots. Each pilot is in one geographical coverage and is related to a challenge of the tourism industry, but it doesn't mean that we are going to create silos between the pilots. All the pilots are going to be connected, interlinked, and at the end of the day, we want that the data is going to flow not only within the pilots, but also at upper level among all of them. And we have a dedicated pilot that is related with cultural heritage, which is the pilot 4. It's lit and it's located in the part of Greece, but also we will know at the end of the project how the other destinations will also benefit from all the knowledge that is going to be acquired with the implementation of this pilot. Which is our approach? We are aware that exist different initiatives that are already there. So the technical support instrument, D3 Hub, which is the EU Competence Center for Data Management in Smart Destinations, the EDIC, the European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, but also there are a lot of national and local initiatives related to data sharing, data spaces, data hubs at all these levels. And we really need to generate these alignments and synergies. That's why all the governance and interoperability mechanisms that we are going to put in place are so important. Then we want really that the real use cases are representing all the diversity of different typologies of tourism and different typologies of destinations. We want really to be aligned with all these different data spaces. So here I have put some, but there are for sure some more, for example, the energy data space that also we want to generate synergy with them. And you can see also the cultural heritage data space. And also with this infrastructure, the middleware Simple, but also the data space support center, which is not an infrastructure, but is this umbrella that will ensure that all the data spaces are working together. This is all from my side. If you have any question, I'm available here to answer.
Thank you very much, Dolores, about outlining the main elements of the Deploy Tour project. I was myself at the kickoff in Mallorca earlier this month, and I can really say how exciting it was to see all these partners so enthusiastic about the start of this strategic project. We are waiting for some questions from the audience. Could you maybe elaborate a bit more on the connection between the data space, the two data spaces, culture, heritage, and tourism, and maybe perhaps more on the pilot in particular?
Yes, for sure. So what it's important is to understand, first of all, that when we are discussing about data spaces, the data sharing is based on voluntary basis. So when we at the level of the European Commission, we are discussing about this common European data spaces. So this means that when we share data, is because we are going to generate a new added value. And this is very important. So we really want to protect and enhance and boost and preserve our cultural heritage. At the same time, we have all the tourism that is visiting all this cultural heritage. And the cultural heritage is an important part of the tourism experience, because at the end of the day, we know that the satisfaction of the tourist is very related with this curiosity, and they learn something new, and they are going to visit different places. The cultural heritage makes the difference from one location to another, because it's based on the tradition, on the cultural, so many years history. How are we going to generate alignments on how this cultural heritage is preserved, how the visits are organized, and how these monuments, how all the cultural heritage managers know exactly which number of tourists are going to arrive, which are their interests, how are they going to promote the visits, but at the same time they are controlled or limit the number of people visiting their places. So we can only generate this good management if we have data. And this means that both they have to connect and to mention, okay, I want to preserve this cultural heritage. This means that we are going to allow only 1,000 visits a day. How many people is going to come? How are we going to spread the visits along the year? Which is the people that is interested in visiting us? Are we promoting properly our cultural heritage? So there are a lot of things that nowadays are done a little bit by hand or not, with perceptions. And I think we really need to share this data to take these better decisions, because we have to keep our cultural heritage, which is at the end fundamental, and also is what the thing that makes the difference when the tourists are coming. And we have to think that the tourists are coming to Europe due to that. It's our culture, our history, our gastronomy. So because we make a difference with the other continents, and we are the old continent. So this means that our history is very rich, and we really need to preserve it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm now inviting the audience for some questions. Maybe we can wait a bit. Yeah, there is a lot of information to process, and indeed the connection covers all these aspects, from really data interoperability to sharing even best practices on data governance, to this use case which will replicate, hopefully will be replicated to other cultural heritage sites. I don't think we have.
Tom raised his hand, Milena.
Okay, I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. Yes, please.
Thanks, Milena. Thanks very much, Dolores and Misa. I'd like to ask you, you are a sort of parallel project to our Data Space for Cultural Heritage project. We are very keen for synergies and for collaboration. Could you say just one thing that you would really help you, that we can do for you? And can you also say one big thing that you can really offer us that's really going to help us as a sort of first initial trade-off?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So indeed, and Milena knows very well, in the Ploitur, we have a dedicated work package that is synergies and complementarities. So from the very beginning, from drafting the project, we really mentioned that we have to work together with the other data spaces. First, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So, and this is important. So what I don't want is to reinvent the wheel. If you have some things, the things that are already done and work, please bring them to us. So I think perhaps this will be my first request. So, and also tell us what it didn't work. Because now we are generating a big community. You know that tourism is very complex because we have the very small players, the very large players, a lot of public administration. Tourism is at local, regional, national level, spread with different competences. It's very complex, all this governance. So, and I think Europeana, you already have in place this governance. So I think there we can learn a lot of from you. What we want, it's or we can. What can we offer you? A great ecosystem. So we're already a big partners, a big consortium with a different kind of partners. But this consortium is going to start accepting new members and partners because the European Commission is asking us to increase the number of actors that are going to interact with the tourism data space. So we really offer you this ecosystem that could be brought to you, and we can generate the synergies, because at the end of the day, only working together, we are going to be able to take the better decisions and to make the data flow in the right way to preserve the heritage and also to generate this more sustainable and resilient tourism that we are looking for.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have one more question from the audience of Jill Cousins. How do you envisage the EU countries not in the project becoming involved in the future, for example, Ireland?
So indeed, we are starting to check, and we had a meeting when it was, I don't know, it was last week, with the people from Hungary, and they are not also in the project, but they are going to set a data space, and we are going to start working with them in defining together in order to give them information on in order to ensure interoperability and in order to ensure that we are all compliant in the development of the data spaces, because this is a process. So we are now in the beginning, so we are in the month 2 of the project. We have 36 months in front of us to implement the project. But from the very beginning, we really want that any actor that is interested in implementing data spaces come to us and participate in a way. So we are going to create boards, we are going to create a lot of community activities in order the data, the information, the actions that we are going to implement is going to flow from one side to another. We want to learn from other experiences, we want to exchange, and we are deploying this umbrella, because the European tourism data space, it will be like an umbrella that gathers all the other data spaces that are linked to that. And we want to establish also a sound governance, and a sound governance can only be set with the participation of everybody. So if Ireland is interested in participating in a way, so come to us, contact us, and we will check how can we work together.
Yeah, maybe it will be useful also to share when the project website will be available live, so that people can find out more and find ways to connect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have already the social networks. The website will be deploytour.eu, and it will be working, I think, mid-December. So from then we will start publishing all the activities of the project, and we will generate also perhaps so this place in which the data and information from the project will be published.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can't see any more raised hands. If there are, please just jump to the conversation. There are no more questions in the chat either. Therefore, I can say thank you again, Dolores, for the insightful presentation. I think there are so many exciting things to come up in terms of collaboration between the two data spaces. So it's something that we really look forward to. So we can move then to the final block of our day, and this is the recap of the project week. What has happened during these 5 days? What are the main takeaways, and what we have to look forward to in the future? And on this note, I pass to my colleague and our business operations director, Albert Verhaar.
Thank you very much, Milena, and welcome everyone. It's already in the afternoon. So after quite an intense week of a lot of presentations, a lot of information you got, I'm still happy to see so many people here in the call. So if I can have the next slide, I will share with you some figures. Already 750 participants during this entire week, which is, I think, is a great result. 49 speakers. And if you have attended all the sessions, you have seen almost 600 slides. But most important, I think this is also something that we can take into account of the future, is that up to now, we have an 86% satisfaction rate. And that is absolutely something great to hear. As Milena said, we're going to do a very quick recap of this week, showing some highlights of the days. And I moving over back to you, Milena, to share with us your highlights on day one.
Yes, if you can move the, okay, maybe I'll move the slide. Yes, thank you. Day one started with a presentation on triple transformation, part one. Today is the part two. We had 16 speakers, and what our main takeaways are is, first one, the importance of collaboration, partnerships, and network. This is an obvious one, but the presentation really made clear how partnerships and collaboration can foster innovation, can generate new idea, and in some contexts, for example, conflict-stricken areas, to build pathways to lasting peace. The second main highlight was about the changing EU policy landscape, and this is in relation to the new commission about to take office. And here the main emphasis is on the view or the priority of cultural heritage, digital cultural heritage seen as a tool to enhance competitiveness, to advance technological sovereignty, and also to broaden the access to culture for diverse audiences with strong focus on younger audiences. And the final highlight for the day also that about digital transformation and digital change. And here what we mean is that digital transformation is an evolving concept, and now it includes also environmental and social aspects. It's also context specific. So what we saw in the day is a clear geographical dimension during the Heritage Dialogue. And maybe the final highlight is that, as one of the participants said, there is no such thing as small change. Every small breakthrough can lead to a cultural heritage revolution tomorrow. And on this note, I'll pass to day two to Albert.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, day two was all about 3D. Amazing presentations, a lot of opportunities, but also, connected to political priorities here, as the TwinIt call to action we had this year, a great event, a great initiative, but it's also to support member states in their recommendations for 3D digitization. It does fostering inclusivity, nurturing the long tail here, and also really important to providing that sustainable funding models for the initial, the institutions, and also the projects related to that. What we've heard also on that day is a little bit of an elephant in the room, is that the dependency on actually the Sketchfab, which is one important service that has been offered, but there is a need for alternatives, a need also to maybe step a little bit away from US-based platforms, profit or maybe also non-profit. Here we've seen several presentations about other alternatives. Compact, for example, a very nice service that can also be used in the future. But also platforms like Share3D, the AGI Data Hub, Scaniverse, and Zonodo, everything related to 3D. So quite some interesting topics to be followed up on. The third one is really about collaboration and storytelling. The focus is here really on lowering the barrier to entry. people working on this part and really enable newer narratives and also very important reuse cases. You've heard also that, and that's the connection actually back to you, Milena, on the third day about reuse. And I think this is a good opportunity to reuse.
Yes, day 3 was focusing on reuse, quite an exciting topic. And here we summarize the following highlights. First, that during the day it became clear that open dialogue and inclusive frameworks are very important ingredients to create optimal conditions for reuse. And this is true at every stage of the process, from digitization to the final pilot or product. Then we talked a lot about memory twins and how these contextualized 3D models can actually open up new opportunities for storytelling and thus to increase engagement with cultural heritage content. And the third highlight is around social VR. Some interesting example presenting during the day. And what it means, again, for engagement and reuse. I mean, this format really allows to create experiences that engage people from different locations together in the same virtual room. So it's quite entertaining and engagement. And well, I look forward to seeing more in that regard. And now passing back to you, Albert, for day 4.
Yeah, well, you still see me. You see me in person. Is not an AI model of me that you see here, but AI is a very important component and a topic for discussions in the coming years. It has those big opportunities, but there are also threats in here. So how far can you go? I think the issues, and I think that has been presented during day 4 about the DeBias project, taking AI opportunities to really about connect and untackle issues like the DeBias. And that's the presentation about the DeBias project that has been shared with you. Sharing open data perspective is very crucial. Community engagement, as mentioned, is a must. But the good thing is that people are often ready and willing to be open on this. The last part, which is really important as well, is guidance. Guidance is really needed because AI can offer so much, but there are also limitations. So it's really have appropriated information about tools, services, and existing deployments. And here, we shared information, and you have seen presentations about AI for culture, which is a very interesting and very good opportunity and providing a sort of platform. And of course, the other one is the data sheets for cultural heritage. And then back to you, Milena, because that's the highlight of today, the morning sessions.
Yeah, it's very difficult to summarize the highlights at this moment. It's still very fresh in my mind, but what became clear is that we talk about synergies between very complex initiatives, and they all have very strong focus on establishing effective and seamless data flows between them, so that this is to the benefit of all users and stakeholders.
So this is something that I'm going to share with you. It's quite some very fresh news. Our Europeana Conference 25 will be held in Poland on the 11th and the 12th of June next year. It will be during the Polish presidency of the Council, and it will be organized in collaboration and partnership with the Ministry of Culture in Poland and the National Institute of Cultural Heritage, hosted by the Polin Museum. So save this date, the 11th and 12th of June next year. It will be in a hybrid format, and it will be in Poland. I'm looking forward to see you all there. Milena, handing back to you for the last part.
Yeah, I can only join you, Albert, in thanking everyone for their time during this week and particularly this day. I know it has been exhausting and overwhelming, as we also in the survey results. It's a lot to ask in terms of attention, but I hope you find that it was still worth it and you felt that you learn a lot about the projects and you found for yourself inspiration, but also new ways to connect to worthy initiatives and partners. I also want to thank in particular to our events team, Gina and Tamara, for making this a wonderful and seamless experience, as well to all other colleagues who have been contributing to the days. I won't be able to mention all of them right now, but we will have our own appreciation drinks in the office. So thank you once again. I hope we will see you next year, as we just decided that it will be a good idea to have one more. Thank you very much.